Hi, my name is Reuven Ben-Shalom. I'm a retired lieutenant colonel from the IDF and a former pilot in the Israeli Air Force. During Operation Protective Edge, I served in the headquarters of the Air Force in Tel Aviv for a few days, but now I'm a civilian again, so whatever I say here is my personal perspective, my personal opinion, and I do not represent Israel or the IDF. I want to talk about what should be our way ahead. First, we have to understand that Hamas is a terror organization. They do not represent the Palestinian people. In my opinion, they do not represent the people of Gaza. So when you have someone from the UN talking about bridging the gaps between two sides, bringing the two sides to the negotiating table, you understand that this will never work. I don't think we can broker a deal with Hamas and hope that it will be kept, because Hamas, all they care about is annihilating the state of Israel, killing all the Jews, and establishing a Muslim caliphate. That is their vision, that is their goal, and what they're trying to promote. So they don't care about peace and prosperity. Again, we usually think in Western terminology. They do not. And they do not care how many civilians die. Or actually, they do care. They want as many as possible to die so they can be on camera and be shown around the world, because this strengthens them and gives them a better image of the oppressed, so they can look at the camera and say the occupation, the brutal Israelis. That's as far as what we're up against, and this very much reflects what we should do in the future. As far as where the operation stands, I'm speaking now on Friday, August 1st. By the time you see this, everything could be different. We could be in a ceasefire, we could be in a full escalation and entering more deep into Gaza Strip. I don't know. But we all understand that the main mission now for the IDF is to find and destroy the salt tunnels leading into Israel. And of course, in the long run, what we want to do is stop the missile attacks on Israel and restore deterrence and achieve long-term stability. Long-term stability, because the last round of violence in 2009 and 2012 always led to a state of calm. Everyone was very happy with the calm, but that was used to rearm and regroup and just prepare for the next round of violence, which was worse than the first one. So again, talking about what we should be aiming for, it is long-term stability, where the terror rulers of Gaza are being denied the capabilities to inflict terror on their own people and us with strategic weapons. I'm not going to say we can take away every AK-47. I'm also not saying that we can deprive them of their dream of one day throwing all the Jews into the sea. But maybe the international community can prevent them from holding these capabilities, and monitoring specific equipment, tools, and chemicals that go into Gaza. For instance, make sure that cement goes to build schools and not poured underground to build tunnels. I think where we stand now, Israel has three possibilities. One is go into a ceasefire like we did before, more of the same, time of quiet, and I think we all understand we don't want to do that. Second option, broaden the operation, go deeper into Gaza. What's the limit of that? Conquer the Gaza Strip, rule it for a few years, lose many soldiers in the process. Many more civilians will die, of course, in the process. I think we don't want that. The international community doesn't want that. Maybe Hamas want that, but I think maybe we should not give them that option. So option 3 is, of course, trying to reach long-term stability by demilitarizing Gaza from their strategic weapons. Of course, the people of Gaza have to go back to their track of life, and they have to rebuild Gaza. They have to recuperate from the severe blow that was now inflicted on them because of their terror leaders, and of course they have to see hope. We want to see them out in the markets. We want to see eventually open borders, and what Hamas declared that they want is what we want. We want them to prosper. We want them to be the Riviera of the Middle East. So I think that if demilitarization is imposed by the international community, then part of that should be a package of international assistance of rebuilding Gaza, reconstructing, rehabilitating, and the people of Gaza should be able to feel very soon the benefits of this new situation. But again, only if the millions of dollars that get allocated by the international community go to the right purpose, and not like in the past where the Hamas regime betrayed their own people and funneled all their strategic capabilities and money and equipment underground and into rockets. It's very important to point out that There were precedents in the Middle East and the region. The international community imposed on Syria the dismantling of their chemical infrastructure, which is an incredible achievement. Even the nuclear talks with Iran, which of course, Israel is skeptical and can oppose it, but look what happens. The international community can decide to do something and impose something and and push forward in a process that is not necessarily military. This could be done here too. The international community, with the appropriate resolve and determination, can declare and impose a demilitarization process and mechanism on Gaza. It's very important to point out that this conflict is not Israel versus Palestinians, and it's not Israel versus Gaza. It's a terror organization with a terror network, and it's the moderates. The moderates are, to me, if you ask me personally, it's the people of Gaza that are suffering severely from this conflict. It's Israel, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority should be key in this process. They should have a leading role in this process, because eventually we should see out of this low point that we are now an opportunity to move forward in the peace process, and someday maybe peace agreement led by the Palestinian Authority, and have the Palestinians as one entity with one rule. The demilitarization mechanism has to be robust. The border crossings have to be monitored. Again, there's short term and there's long term, but clearly from day one the borders have to be monitored. The first process to be done is detecting and dismantling the tunnels, or the tunnels that are left. We cannot have one tunnel leading into Israel. We cannot be surprised by another terror attack. This is something that Israel now clearly understands. This is our new red line, I would say. And of course we have to have inspection and assurance that all dual-use materials, dual-use, that means a material that could be used for agriculture and terror, or for construction above ground or construction underground, all these materials have to be monitored. There has to be some kind of international body that inspects and ensures that every sack of cement goes and is allocated to the right place. And at the end we have to have a robust mechanism that enforces and inspects and makes sure that all these mechanisms work. Eventually, part of this agreement should be, as I said before, economic development of Gaza, and eventually, someday, inshallah, like the Arabs say, a port and commerce and an airport someday. Hopefully, this is the Israeli dream. Remember, not the dream of Hamas, but I think the international community have to force the reality into this new situation, and hopefully someday that can be led by the Palestinian Authority. One more point about what to expect later on. I think what we're going to see in the next few months is dealing a lot with the legal aspects of this operation. We all see the horrific pictures coming out of Gaza. We all care for the people of Gaza. I mean all except Hamas, of course. Every child killed in Gaza, every innocent civilian that's not involved in terror is a tragedy. And the IDF and the IAF try to do the best they can to prevent innocent civilians from being hurt. This I can tell you from my personal perspective, from what I saw from the planning and the operating and controlling cycle. Incredible. And being very involved in international relations and international military cooperation, I can personally attest that I have never seen any other military do it better. And I have seen many times international representatives come to here wearing uniform from a broad spectrum of armies, telling us that what we do is something that they would not have done. They would not have gone to these extreme lengths to prevent civilians from being in harm's way, and that is something that I've seen and heard so many times. So when you hear a government say something, or you hear the media of a certain country say something, believe me, it doesn't mean that the military of that country doesn't know very well that Israel is doing its best to safeguard civilians in Gaza. Still, we will see a lot of dealing with this in the next few months. I have no doubt about it. Some of it will be with ridiculous organizations like United Nations Human Rights Council, which is a joke. I don't know if Israel will participate or not. I hope we do. I think we should go there and present a good case, but still I don't have any expectations. All I know is that we do right. Urban warfare, fighting an asymmetric rival, using terror and guerrilla tactics in urban environment is a brutal war. as all Western countries have seen, fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, going back to the 90s in Mogadishu and even in World War II, fighting in an urban environment leaves destruction, leaves many people displaced and many civilians that get hurt. It's tragic, and I do think that Israel has a world record in fighting this kind of war, trying to prevent civilian casualties, and that's what we're doing. The last thing I will say is that the international community bears responsibility for what happened. We stood idly by, I mean the international community, stood idly by as Hamas betrayed their people and used their resources to terror instead of building Gaza. UNRWA, which is a body of the UN, in a way perpetuates the refugee problem, and in fact in Gaza enabled Hamas to build their terror infrastructure in Gaza. I think this is something that we're going to have to relook. The UN has to relook. I'm not saying that UNRWA collaborates with terrorists, but I say that UNRWA enables terrorists to build their terror empire in Gaza and inflict terror on internally and to the entire region. So this is something that the international community, I think, has to look at very carefully. I think the international community bears responsibility for the fact that so many millions of dollars went to assist the people of Gaza and went to terror. And that's why I also think that the international community bears responsibility in now helping to build a mechanism for long-term stability for a demilitarized Gaza. Thank you very much.